Yes, hi, sweets.
So does it show you a list of who's on there?
That's what I'm trying to do. Over here, we'll start seeing people pop up. Yep, there we go. I can see it here. Let me bring this up so I can actually see it.
Mine doesn't do anything over there. Just
We're going
says,
to share it to a few places. Let me share it to a group. I'm going to share it to the Masters, the Meet the Masters group.
oh wow, now you're making me nervous.
Yeah. So, let me open up the video over here. I'm trying to do it. Turn that volume off over there so I don't see it. A couple people starting to join, a couple people liking, a couple people are watching. So
cool. All right. Must be because you're the host. You get all that. I only see me and you.
Yeah, I see. I have some info on the side here, and people can start commenting and joining and that kind of thing. I see them on my other screen. I just can't watch my other screen because it messes me up because I have them both going at the same time. So you are Master Mike Molinaro from Tungsudo, Central New York. Are you still there? Sir. You stop moving for a second. Okay, there you go. I was worried you froze on me.
No, I was actually listening for once.
Oh, you were doing.
That's what it looks like. You don't recognize it.
Were you doing your Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy impression? I'm standing so still, no one can see me.
No, I don't know how I'm doing. I'm seeing this on camera. Look at this.
Oh yeah, you're
wow.
You're awesome. You're so you're really like a statue. That was amazing.
I gotta start meditating now.
So, Master Mike Molinaro, Tungsudo, Central New York. You are introduce yourself a little bit. What do you tell us a little about
you. First of all, I'm honored to be here. I was so happy when you said let's do this because this is kind of, even though I'm formally dressed, it's kind of informal. And years ago when it was hard to get to know the Masters. We didn't have all this tech and everything. And, I would have given anything to be able to just have some time and just chat with them, and it's just sometimes there was people above us talking to them. So you didn't dare interrupt, and so I think this is cool. And I'm just very honored that you had me do this. So yes, Tungsudo, Central New York actually filed for a business in September of 1990. So it looks like we're heading towards 30 years. That's it wasn't full time or nothing then. It might have started out once a week, then twice a week. And it got started because I had moved back here from Pennsylvania after having to, for work reasons and stuff. And I would go to the school. They were playing basketball up there, a lot of the adults and stuff on certain nights. So I would grab the mats and try to practice. And I realized it just wasn't the same. So I started inviting people to my cellar. Well, I had heard a story about how some of these old masters were sometimes really tough at certain times because they were just teaching for free. So they didn't care. So I must have had that stuck in my head. So everybody that came in there didn't stay. Usually only lasted a night. So it wasn't until that September that some guy was opening a workout place in Little Falls.
Yep.
And they said, hey, do you want a karate? Somebody said, do you want a karate guy? I got one here. You'll start teaching there. And that's the way it came about. Interesting as that may or may not be.
That is pretty cool. It's always interesting to hear how studios get started. You hear about people starting them in their basement, and, in their garage, or, they just, they wherever they feel. Grandmaster started when he first came back in the Air Force, started his in a Air Force base in Arizona when he first came back. So it's always interesting to hear how studios get started. So when did you start training? What got you started training in
Okay, two separate questions, both good. I can tell you what got me started, and I'm not afraid to say it. I tell you I was afraid of my own shadow. I'm down here at 5'0". I really was. I mean, it got bad to the point where people were walking down the street and I wouldn't face them. I would look away because I didn't want to challenge them, and I would move way out of the way so it didn't look like I was going to start it. I don't know. I was just bad. I had a lot of stuff like that going on. But what drew me to martial arts, why didn't I box or something, is I remember the original. I'm that old. I remember the original David Carradine Kung Fu show in the movie where is true story. He walks across the desert in that movie, and he walks into that bar and they start crap with him. And the way he takes this guy out with the most minimal motion and everything, I think for years that was stuck in there. And if you look at some of the other stuff that I do, my specialty, sometimes it looks very much like that. So it's funny how those things work out. So the combination of two things brought me to martial arts. And I started taking these self-defense classes in college, and then those guys stopped teaching. Got to the next college, and there was a guy teaching for free just because he said, Taekwondo, because he says, I have to do this to get promoted. Retail company bounced me around, went to another, kept starting over in Taekwondo schools. And then the company sent me to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and they didn't have any there. Checked out about 5 schools. So I did find Master Beam as one of them. I don't know. He was just crazy. He just started like yelling at me. He didn't even know me. I said, I like this guy. That's kind of where it was. I said, after having some other instructors, good and bad, I could kind of tell the difference by that point, what you're looking for. And hooked up with him. And then no matter when I moved, I just stayed with the art and the organization.
Oh, that's awesome. So Master Beam was your original, your first instructor in Tung Sudo.
In Tung Sudo, that's right. 1985, I just missed, all that other stuff went on from like 80 through 84. So I just missed the charter by a few years, unfortunately.
That's cool. That's very cool. Very fun. Always cool to hear. So going along with that, kind of coming off of that, what would you say were some of your big influences in Tung Sudo and martial arts?
Well, I do remember a lot of the early days going to a tournament and seeing things that they were just crazy, Dan. I remember there's one memory in particular. This guy, the host would always do some kind of demo or something. And I remember he had these guys with boards, like I swear it was 6 of them, unless I'm not remembering this right. And he'd walk down, move something like looked like a half an inch, and then he'd walk away, get ready, and then he'd come back. And I was like, my God, what is this guy doing? And this went on for I don't know how long. All of a sudden you see this flash of him running, wham, 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 right in the air, like everything broken. And I was like, oh my God, can somebody really do that? And then saw demos in my school, like some of these instructors would just do crazy things, lay on the bed of nails and you break the concrete. And they just did a lot of crazy demos. And saw some other things like, guys actually get knocked out in a tournament. And now why that would attract me to all this, I have no idea. But that was an early influence. I was like, darn, these guys are. What was really cool, though, Dan, the message is that most of these guys that I got to know, instructors with the crazy demos and everything else, is they were tough. I mean, tough. You had the toughest, but they were good guys. They weren't, gangs. They weren't trouble. These guys were tough and good. And I was like, I didn't know that was possible. So I said, I got to have that. So I don't know. I stayed with it. I hated testing. Oh, brown belt, not this again. Red belt. Oh, do I have to? Because I just wanted to be tough and good like those guys. I really didn't care about anything else. So that's kind of where it all started and what influenced me to keep going. I was like, I don't know, not like those guys yet. I got to keep going, I guess.
That's the thing. That's absolutely the thing of you see the people you want to be like, and you keep trying to catch them and beat them, and it's a challenge. It's tough. And so
I don't know you're doing it at the time, though.
No.
Later, that's what was going on, but at the time, you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm getting batted around. The old tournaments where you didn't have to wear the gear. I come home the next day, I'm all limp and bruised up and everything. I'm like, yeah, they didn't kill me. I'm a man. Yeah.
And again, so anybody that's watching, feel free to start posting some comments, ask some questions so that we can anything you want to ask Master Molinaro, I'll keep asking some questions, and as you guys are watching and asking. So feel free to ask some things to keep us going through this. But what so that's what got you going. What is keeping you going? What are the things that are keeping you going forward with this?
Two things. Again, great question. Two things really. One of them, it's going to sound dumb. I'm not going to say it right, but I feel like I owe the association because they took me out of those fears and whatever else, and provided like a second family. But it's kind of like, just think if you ever quit, but we're still teaching, what would you be teaching? You'd be teaching everything they taught you. You know what I mean? And then you have this circle of friends, like me and you and Mr. Porco and just all these people all over the world that I can't imagine just you quit. It's almost like saying goodbye to all of them. Yeah, they might stay in touch for a while, but then you get to a certain point and maybe you're on a committee or something and, you feel like you're doing good work. Like this needs to be done, and who's going to do it if you don't? Maybe somebody, but those kind of things keep me going.
Oh, that's actually good. That's great. That's an awesome thing to hear. And what keeps you going, that kind of thing. And you kind of mentioned it in there. And this question I was going to save for a little later because when I talked to Master Valentin yesterday, or it might have been Friday, I talked to him, and I was telling him that I was going to be doing this with you, and he goes, oh, that would be great. Master Molinaro, I can't wait to hear some of the things he's going to say. He was hoping to try to join. Not sure if he got done teaching or if he's available to watch, but he was very excited to hear it. And he's like, Mr. Family 9.
Nine.
You coined that term that we use as a hashtag Family 9. Everyone says you were the impetus for that term. You coined it at our regional championship several years ago. Where did you come up with that? How did you?
I was stuck. I was embarrassed because I didn't know I was supposed to go down in the front. Grandmaster Bowden was down there with the plaque or whatever. And finally, I kept talking to him from up there, and I'm getting nervous. He finally goes, "You want me to come up there?" And I was like, "Yeah, could you, sir?" And I was like, "Did I just do that in front of everybody?" Order him to come up there where I was. So then I started stammering about, I just wanted to say, I'm not that, we're not that important because everybody does good things. I got all tongue-tied, so I had to come up with something quick. And I hate to say it, but that wasn't planned. That was right on that moment.
So give everybody the context of why you were up there talking and
because we got the Family of the Year. You mean?
Yeah.
And there's kind of more context to that. I kind of got myself elected because I said something at a meeting one time about because this had come up in Region 8 and 9. The students somebody like Cesar Fernandez, #1 student, called me one time and said, how do you award somebody? How do you get them nominated for this? And then, so I was just asking at the meeting because one of my students wanted to do it. And I didn't know how it worked. So I says, how do you, my student, I got to get back to him. He was asking about if he wanted to nominate me, how would you do that or nominate us? And he said, you can't. We do it here. And then the next email after I got home was, congratulations, you're Family of the Year. I don't know what took us so long to figure that out. but I was the one that put the idea in everybody's head, as terrible as that is. And I didn't mean to do it, but that's how it, next thing I know, we're at the tournament and I'm up there trying to make a speech and getting all tongue-tied, and out comes Family 9. And that's what we are. I'm glad.
That was great. That was awesome. So we got a question here from Dan Meyer and Dan Greenwolf. He's asking, he's asking, Master Molinaro has an extensive knowledge of Hyungs and the history of martial arts. He seems to have a more of a focused fascination with the Nyanchi Hyungs. Can you explain why that is? Why do you have your fascination with the Nyanchi Hyungs?
Okay, I'm going to give you, wait, let me turn this down so we don't, what was the guy saying I knew how to be on these meetings. All right, so there's a good answer and a funny answer. The
Perfect.
funny answer is I'm very bow-legged, and I don't know what it is about that stance in there, but it fits my legs really good. The second thing is that, and that's true, believe it or not. I'm not sure if you believe in destiny or karma or any of that stuff, but years ago we were at a black belt clinic, and Master Beam was talking about. Now, he taught us some of this in the class, but he would always do cooler things there, you know. And he was talking about the elements and how they can be used in different ways, you know, like earth and all this stuff. Well, I was a spaz back then, man. I was skinny, had a lot of energy and all this stuff. So he was telling people that they have certain elements that they're like. So I went up to him after and I said, "Sir, what am I?" And he says, "You're earth." I said, "Really?" I go, "Like me, spaz me?" I says, "Why would you say I'm earth?" He says, "Because you think like earth." Now, here's what comes out next. I promise it'll be short. Here's what comes out next. I had watched the students for years doing this, and they would do it really, really quick like this, which some arts do, but there's a certain intention they have when they do that our students didn't have. So all those years, and then you finally get to that point where you're doing something you saw forever, and I was doing that, and he hollered at me. And I said, "Well, sir, I thought that's the way those guys always did it." And he just looks at me like this. He goes, "Yeah, that's the way those guys did it." So first root is that he doesn't teach me like he taught them. Second root is I didn't realize Nahanchi is a very earth. If you were going to pin some forms to elements, Nahanchi is the earth element. Very rooted, very grounded. Like if I had to protect something and I couldn't move, that is the form that you learn how to do that. So it's almost like it was a destiny, you know, that form was going to become mine. And then when I hooked up, you know, with the Okinawan teacher, you know, obviously that's a big part of what they do. In the Okinawan circles, that form is like second one they learn or something. Sometimes it's very basic to them. But so all things combined, all of a sudden I'm spending all this time and I don't know. That's how it happens, I guess.
No, that's awesome. That's great. So we got a couple more questions that came in here. A couple of things. Master Jorgensen is asking. Master
Dr. J, yes.
He is asking if there is one thing you would like to be remembered for as a martial artist or instructor, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I can't come up with a quick one on that. You know, I guess if I had to pick something quick, I would say that form. You know, they used to, as you know, and you know this, you're playing like host, but you know this stuff. The forms had, I believe, let's just temper everything with I believe. The forms, there's this whole thing about, oh, they watched animals and they imitated them or took something. Some people say that. Other people say, like, I learned from Grandmaster Bowden when he would talk about Wan Chu, he'd say it's like a sparrow. And they would use, you know, you got to remember, sometimes they had language barriers and things, writing barriers. So they would use, like, not a mnemonic, but whatever you call it, like a symbol of something, you know, for each form. So maybe someday they'll write a book on forms in World Tong Sudo, and they'll go to Hanchi, and I'll be the thing for that instead of a bird, or I'll be that animal instead of a bear or something, you know.
Nice.
I would like that. If there's any legacy, I would like it to be that, because I just keep studying it and keep discovering more in it, and that would be good. Thank you, Master J. That's holy cow. What a question.
Okay, so Zachary Coffin.
Zachary Coffin is one of mine.
He is saying, "Sir, as you were going up through the ranks, did you ever feel disbelief that you were actually that rank?"
And the answer is no. Not because I deserved it, because I never saw the tests as, again, we have a lot of duty. When you belong to an organization like this, you do your duty. Almost like the same reason somebody would join the military or something. They don't even always know why. They have some kind of calling. So these tests were something I did, even at the higher ranks. every time the test would start, I'd get about 15 minutes in it. Well, Dan, you were at the last one. I'm asking myself why I put myself through this. Like, why do I do this to myself? And the test is like a committee or opening a school or anything else that you do because it's just what we do. And like I said earlier, I never looked at a rank like something I was after or I got. Oh, it's time for this again, kind of thing. So I never looked down and said, oh my God, I can't believe it. I've told stories to students. Like one day you looked down and said, where did this come from? That's about it, Mr. Zach. Good question, though.
So one of our students, Dean, is asking. He's from the academy. He's asking if either of us, or if we know if Grandmaster Bowen ever took a break and then came back years later. You kind of already addressed that a little bit in that you didn't really take a break, but yours was more a stuttering start for
right.
Me personally, Dean, I actually did. I did stop. I started when I was a little kid. I actually found the other day my pre-world home sudo certificates from when I was like 6 years old, like 6 and 7 years old. I got up to a green belt, and then I stopped, and then I came back several years later when I was a preteen and like 12 years old. And I picked it up from there. So yeah, it does. Some people have done that. I personally did that. Grandmaster Bowen never did. You never did Master Molinaro, but you kind of.
And that's come up before, Dan, because I've even tried to ask my own students who take breaks and come back and tried to get to the bottom of why this happens. And I go, but I don't understand because and they go, that's why you're the SA. That's all I can get out of them. That's why you're the SA. Because you didn't do it the way we all did it. So who knows? Like, I told people this whole martial art career has been like you're on a bus or a train. And, when it stops, are you supposed to get off or not? And the only time I thought about it, I'm going to be candid with you guys. After the first red stripe, I'd been at this quite a while because, I don't know, I was a long way from my instructors. So it was a lot of years between tests. My peers are all higher ranks than me. But who cares? I told you that's not why I'm in it. And after that red stripe, you do a lot of reflecting, or I do. And I thought, now the bus has stopped. Am I supposed to get off? I mean, if I have to teach little Johnny Lowblock one more time, maybe I got to question this. It was kind of one of those things, to be honest with you. That's what I was thinking. And right after that, Master Hart, the person with all that Okinawan stuff that I do, passed away. And it was ultimately clear, no, you need to stay on this. You need to keep your instructor's stuff alive. You need to keep the Grandmaster stuff alive. You need to keep that guy's stuff alive. And as best as you can. And then I didn't get off the bus or the train and just stayed on forever.
Oh, that's awesome. It's funny, actually. I think Anthony Bracco just asked a question. He actually asked, could you tell us a bit about Stan Hart and how his training shaped you? Did any of his training shape you differently than your Tong Sudo training?
Yeah. Tong Sudo in the previous, a lot of us are friends now. I say, yeah, Master J, I couldn't say that before.
Yeah, Master Artika said, great to see you.
Yeah, I think I can see this here. I think they are coming up now. Great to see you too, sir. The how he shaped it was that here was his philosophy. So, around my instructor, I would say things like, we were at a wedding reception once, and I'll never forget this day. I said, sir, do I know you well enough now that I go get a beer? And his wife, she goes, Kamikaze, why are you always so karate? And he goes, well, I appreciate it. And yeah, go ahead. But, that was the most informal in Tong Sudo I ever got with anybody. This guy comes along, and he felt like the formality held people back. In other words, how much money do you have to pay? How long have I got to be in? What rank do I have to get before you'll show me some really good stuff? you know, so he was so willing to share. You know what I mean? That he would show you sides of himself that wasn't formal. He had the ultimate yang. When he passed away, there was people at his funeral didn't even know he did karate. You know, you talk about sports or something. Then when he did it, you just respected him because he could do it. Let's put it that way. So he like showed you both sides, and I realized, well, maybe we can lighten up like we're doing tonight once in a while. You know, finally, and I think he kind of influenced that. You know, like when I see you guys, I might go, Brocco, what's happening? I don't think I would have done that before this guy. So that's the answer.
Awesome. Master Artika, it's funny, actually, you said you used the term kamikaze because Master Artika had asked the question. He said, if I'm not mistaken, one of your nicknames is kamikaze. Where did that originate?
Well, I'm glad to hear that I have more. You just let the cat out of the bag, so I don't know what you guys are calling me when I'm off this thing, but you can laugh. That's as good as the jokes get, you guys. I don't go ahead and laugh because they don't get any better.
Sorry.
Okay, so
I just saw that I got on one of our videos. Somebody commented. Master Robinson commented that he goes, "I always love his candidness and his dedication." So Master Robinson just paid you.
Oh, that's nice. That's great. No, but to answer the question, you know, can you hear me okay? I don't know why I'm yelling. I'm all allergy. Can you hear me okay like this?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
It's the teaching, you know, and so what happened was it became an enduring term in my circles back in Lancaster and wherever, but it didn't start that way. So when I would spar, I told you I was nervous and spaz. All I cared about was taking you out. I didn't care how I did it. I was just going to beat you out there, no matter what it took. So I'd be like, do you ever see a mongoose go after a snake? He's like, wham! And he goes in, and that snake's flopping around, and while he's choking it, and it's banging the crap out of him. That was me. So I would wait for this time, and you know, Master Beam's trying to make me better, and believe me, back then it wasn't easy. It's not easy now either. And I would just dive in, flying sidekick. Bang, the other guy would move. He's laying on the floor because I hit him. He knocked me down. I'd fall on my head, something like that. Master Beam was so mad. Yep, there he goes again. Kamikaze, everybody in, everybody dies. He don't care. He gets so mad, you know, because he wanted me to get better, not really mad. But so he was really, they were making fun of me when they would say that. But then later, anything crazy we could do. Anybody want to try this? Yeah, I'll try. It became more about that. And the story kind of got twisted. Like, you know, we had roaches in that school. I jumped up to hit one with a chop and came down wrong and broke my toe and just stupid things like that. Tried to kick one out of a radiator one time, hurt the other toe. Just dumb things, you know. So then the kamikaze turned into this guy will try anything. He you know. But the original term was not endearing at all, I can tell you. It was not a compliment.
Master Artika says, love it, sir. Master Jorgensen has another one from Master Ricky Jorgensen. You are an excellent storyteller. What is your favorite story to tell?
So, I thought you were going to ask me why. I was going to say, like, I had 2 generations of barbers before me. Do you ever hear those guys talk? Man, they can spin a yarn. My favorite story to tell. Wow. Ricky, I'd like to think about that one for a minute, okay? Because I'm sure there's a lot of them, but it's not coming right to me. If you give me a sec, let me take another question maybe, and then I'll come back to that one if it's okay.
Sure, absolutely. Well, actually, you know, so I have some. Maybe this will give you a quick story that you can go off of for a second. So, let me know if you can hear this.
Of course I can. Okay, that is one of my favorite stories. So this numbskull here on your camera, you know, he's always gets up. He's like the first one up at the master's clinic because you got to take care of Grandmaster Bowden and everything. You want to make sure everybody's getting where they're supposed to get and everything. And I didn't used to be a morning person. So he has a habit at the clinic of getting up before his alarm goes off. So the first time was not that. He goes in the shower, and all of a sudden, I don't know how this thing timed, but the alarm clock goes on, and we're in Alabama. I hear this thing go, Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba. It's going like that. It's some like station out, like the show was going to start or something. But somehow it timed perfectly. I don't know how to shut the thing off. I can't see. I'm going like this. And then every year he had something. And one year it was that thing. And if you ever heard the rest of the song, the guy's got a kooky laugh and everything. Now at like 5, 6 in the morning, you got to get the context of what this sounds like. And you don't know how to stop it. You know, the guy goes, hoo, 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 the crazy laugh and that song. Yeah, I do like to tell that story. That is a good hint. Yeah,
that is one of my favorites as well. Lauren hates that song because I kept after that I had as my alarm for a while. She's like, "Don't you ever play that song again?" I will change.
But then it became the theme song for my seminar, The Guard, because if you look at the words, you know, it's all about control and who's going to take it, all that kind of stuff. And seemed the verse seemed to fit, so we adopted it. And we, even if I travel now, guys who had been to New York to a seminar, they will play that when I walk out. Like it's that's not one of the things I wanted to be known for either. For the previous question.
Awesome. So, Tom Lyons is asking, what is your favorite Master Beam story?
So, Master Beam, there's a lot of stories involved with him. But here's the funny one. I mean, there's stories where he would do crazy things to me. I could go on all night. And it's not because he didn't like me. I think he was testing my mettle. You know, like I had a wisdom tooth out, and he walked by one, and I told him, and he walked by and kind of back-fisted me there. And I was kind of grumbling. He goes, "Didn't you just have something done there?" Now, the other black belts always said, "Don't move." They were always measuring you up, like punching right next to your head. And they'd always say, "Don't move." And they get mad. So I didn't move, and he hit me. And he was kind of like, "You're going to let me do that to you again?" I was like, never know what to do. But there's 100 stories like that. But the best one doesn't involve me. It involves Master Soon. You guys know Stu, right?
Yep.
Stu's always laughing, right? He's a happy guy. So Master Beam used to go out to the Western PA clinic, and he would teach what he calls a hanbo, which was like the Korean version of the Jo, you know, the shorter staff. So he takes Stu, whack, and he hits him, and Stu's laughing, oh, and then he twists him up. And Stu's on his back, and his feet are up like this with the bar in between. And Stu's still laughing. Master Beam sat on the bar. Stu comes off like a spring. He comes right off the ground, and he's ho, 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 and the laugh was, I don't know if you were there. The laugh was gone completely. Ho, 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 he's going like that. Oh my God. I knew it hurt because that thing was right on his shins and Master Beam sat on it. Oh my God. There's a lot of stories like that, but that one I always remember as being funny. Well, not to Master Soon, but to me it was funny.
That's a good one. So, who are some people that you look up to in Tong Soo Do, outside of Tong Soo Do, in life? Obviously me. You don't have to say me, but you know.
I was going to say anybody 5'7" or taller. That's really bad. Let's see. You know, obviously my instructors, some of the people that aren't, especially a lot of the people that aren't here anymore. My God, Master Casarano, he was a tough, old school guy. The old Master White, learned a lot from him. These guys, Master Beam, let me just do the past ones first. You know, these guys just had something. I don't know what it was that you were just like, my God, if I could ever get a fraction of that. And they were cool because they would share, but it was like they carried this backpack of books, and you had to point to the right book to ask them a question. I mean, figuratively, you know, like they wouldn't just sit down and say, "Okay, Master Farrelly, I want to share this with you." You know, you had to open that door. And they just, like, they're not really tough, but they had learned a lot conceptually and, you know, the depth of things that it's hard to get to sometimes, especially today in a world that goes this fast, you know. So the past guys that I looked up to were them, Grandmaster Bodwin, Grandmaster Shin, obviously. Grandmaster Shin had something that if he asked you to do something, you couldn't say no. I don't know what that power was, if he was hypnotizing us or what the heck he was doing, but you just could never say no to him, you know. Grandmaster Bodwin, I super looked up to because he was the one guy that, like, you knew he could kick your rear end at any second. You know, he had a whole past. He faced some tough guys, the whole thing, you know, competed with Chuck Norris, all that stuff. But he never sought to prove it. You know, he never put on airs. He never, everybody still respected him. And everybody knew he was tough and no one would get out of line. And he could enjoy his life and be funny and nice like that. Yet you still knew. Man, that is the ultimate thing to look up to. You know what I mean? Master Beam, I looked up to him because he was not very well, he wasn't a very learned scholar type guy, yet he dragged himself out of a poor environment and did a lot with his life. You know, we could just go on and on all night. World Tung Soo is just filled with guys like that you could look up to. Master Robinson, I don't know, because he's more handsome than I am, maybe. No, we told a lot of stories about him in our school. We always loved him, and he, you know, he just does it right. He works out, he stays in shape. You know, he's knowledgeable, he's tough, and anybody that fits that description, I look up to him.
Awesome. So, when did you got your master's in what year?
I don't know. Just remember there was a whole debacle there. They get the Jeff Swartz. Somehow they had our schools mixed up, and the numbers got crossed or something, and they didn't have all my students. They thought I only had a handful of students, and half of them were in his school, and their old database was not recording any white belts until they tested, and so it got lagged. I know a couple of years, a year or two. I don't know, you guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what it was.
I think it was 2007. I think is
7.
Yeah, I think.
Again, I wasn't really in it for that. I appreciate it. I don't even think I deserve to wear it, but you know, they give it to me, so I have to do it out of a sense of duty.
Yeah, so I was gonna say this is something Anthony always says is that I want to get your thought on this one and see how you feel on this one. Is that kind of in World Home Show especially is that right when you get comfortable, right when you think you are the rank you are, right when you feel like, okay, I've earned it, I'm here, I'm at this point, this is exactly where I should be, that's when they give you something else to do or give you a promotion or do something else. And they're like, no, here, now you got to do this. And just give you that next challenge to go a little further. Do you think that's something that happens?
I don't think they do it on purpose. It's like we're all on a ship in the martial art ocean, and sometimes people fall over the side, whether they pass away or whatever happens. And I've always said to people, look, the association needs officers on this ship. So even, you know, you don't always get to say, nah, I don't want to do that. And these things might be twofold. Like, yeah, they might have challenged you at the right time, but that also may have be because that opening happened at that time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody, and you should take them up on it because they know, they see something in you and that need is there and you should see that in the association. But it's kind of like it's another way to move forward other than a rank, you know, and it's more growth. And because let's face it, it's old as Sun Tzu who basically said, when your army's moving, paraphrasing, when your army's moving, it's alive. When it stops moving, it's dead. And there's other people who say the same thing. Master Donaldson was a ranger. He'll say, yeah, that's true. He says, because like we always said, if you stay in the foxhole long enough, you will get shelled. So same theory, just said in different words, So those things are meant to be there. We have to do that. Can't always just be about rank.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Very good. Nice. Look at all my list of questions. You've tore through all my list of questions.
Well, if you do that again like you did, do you remember how, put it over more. Remember how Grandmaster Baldwin and Master Strong, you always used to make that joke, they put their heads together? You and I almost just did that accidentally.
We don't want to do that to everybody. That definitely would be good. We might get the video might get censored.
Right.
So you're in you and I have do talk often, and one of the things that I think that we talk about often is the understanding and the knowledge of technique and films and kind of that kind of thing. Can you kind of talk about your philosophy with how people learn and improve and grow in their form and their technique?
Yeah. You could go in a lot of directions with that, but here's the main one. If I had to get something across to everybody, you have to remember the people that did this stuff, invented it, improved it, whatever, brought it to new levels, which people have done who it wasn't their origin, but they took something like swords or whatever and brought it to a place no one had brought it before. What you have to remember, here's the key. Number one, they didn't think like we do. Okay. We, as a culture, not knocking it, I'm just saying we're very linear. We were set up to accomplish things and whatever, and we're very step by step, especially in the computer world today. Everybody's very procedural, No,
that's a good term.
I didn't see things like that.
That is a good term. I had not thought of it that way. Procedural. That's a good term.
Yeah. And they saw things like you can't have this without that. Like if you practice the energy that might be needed for certain forms, and different forms have different energy, like I told you about in the Hanshi, that energy you need for that is different than maybe a long, crane looking form. When you practice that and try to improve that, you're looking at that as something separate. When you try to look at the self-defense in a form, you're trying to look at that as something separate. But if you look at these things, the way Kung Fu was very flowery and some of the origin of these things, they look very much like the key energy things we've been practicing in the last decade or two. And it's almost like they were smart enough to know that, like your car, as you go faster, that alternator and whatever is generator is going, it's actually charging your battery as your car is expending energy. And I swear they're that smart that they figured out how to do that these moves were designed not only to defend yourself, but to actually be charging your battery as it's going. We just don't think like that over here. You know what I mean? We want everything to be this or that. And when you can figure out how these things fit together, then the whole form game takes on a new luster. All the parts of it, defense, energy, this, that, the other thing. And if you can get that down, the rest will be easy.
So, what one thing should students understand that eludes them the most? That's someone, I think Anthony asked that question.
One thing that what, sir? Say it again.
That what one thing should students understand that has eluded them the most?
I'm not getting the last part of it.
Sorry.
One thing should they understand that
eludes them, that they're missing.
Oh, eludes. Like, oh, don't use those big words with me. I've been hitting the head too many times.
It's got 6 letters.
Well, first of all, the thing that I said just a minute ago, eludes a lot of people. You can't see this thing as a one answer thing. You know, it's there's parts of it that come together. If there's any drummers out there, when you try to learn a drum roll, like a buzz roll, you know, you try go left, right, but after a while that doesn't work. There's something more going on, boom, that kind of thing. There's something more going on, and your movements are the same way. It doesn't have to be a whole form. It could be each move. And if they had to know one thing, it has to be the combination of what I told you and for them to move themselves instead of the arms and the legs. These are like the tree, the branches, and your feet are like the roots. And that day when you finally learn to move the center and all the rest of this is the tools around that, if you can figure all that out, a lot will happen for you. That gets away from them a lot because they want something mechanical to grasp on. They want something, a one concept thing, because that's the way they're used to learning. It's very tough for them to get past that.
Oh, absolutely. Something you just said actually kind of, kicked off a thought, that a question to ask you. I'm sure some people know, but not a lot of people know. Might not know. You are a very accomplished musician. How does, and actually Master Artika is asking the same question. Awesome, Master Artika. How has your experiences with music and as a musician fed into your martial arts or helped your martial arts, and how has your martial arts gone the way?
So I mentioned the thing about the drum roll, but I originally started to get this concept with, you know what a slide, when you say somebody plays slide guitar, if they have a little glass or metal thing on here.
Yep.
That is the coolest thing because they will do these ripping solos. But if you squeeze too hard with that thing or push too hard or get too tight, it's almost like I said before, the harder you try with that slide guitar, that funny whiny thing, the more you have to relax. Think of that concept now in terms of martial arts. Because the tighter you get, how much faster are you going to get? How much smoother are you going to get, right? Yet you're supposed to try harder. So how do you try harder without all that other stuff? That's when I was able to put that slide guitar with the concept of movement, a lot of things opened up for me.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. And you talk about movement, and that was something I always remember having a conversation with you about, and you saying to me is that you want to watch a good martial artist, watch their feet, watch how they move, and you'll be able to tell if a person knows what they're doing by how they move. They may do all kinds of things with their hands and every other part of their body, but if they don't move well, they don't have a solid foundation.
I believe it. No matter what art you're doing, there seems to be guys I saw that were really good, and girls, were, even when they were just demonstrating and not really concentrating, they seemed to know right where to place their feet. So Dan, you'll admit you did Hapkido.
I never formally trained, but Grandmaster had a black belt, or almost had a black belt in Hapkido, so I learned a bit.
You've seen it, like I saw it. Master Beam did too. So teach us one night we were doing that, and they are not, Hapkido especially is not the gentle way like the Japanese form of it, the Aiki. They're pretty tough. But that like these things, where am I? That's like the icing on the cake, right? Like we affect the hitting arts, the Okinawan stuff and Tung Sudo and all, we affect your balance, we affect your body, which is a whole nother subject, by hitting it. The grappling arts, it seems like they place their foot and they've affected you by balance. They are in balance, you're out of balance. So by the time you get to this, they're almost gone. Right? You agree with that?
Absolutely.
And I just learned to watch their feet. They're so sure where they put them, whether it's grapplers or hitters. Hey, if you're going to hit something effectively, yes, we used to talk about that. And as I explained to my students, it's not for knocking him out, is for the purpose of backing him up or keeping him from coming forward so you can get away. If you can't do that, you can't get away. And, an inch off, like breaking a board or anything else, it's going to show, right? Well, that inch is made up with your feet. And I started, and once I figured that out, I started watching a lot of people. Yeah, the guys who are good just know where that foot goes, even while they're talking. They don't even have to think about it. So yes, I'm going to say that again. You want to call somebody on something, watch their feet.
You're saying that, and it's funny. Grandmaster used to always talk about, and he always used to reinforce the point of the Grandmaster Shin said as well, because it's in his book, is our one step. They teach us that it's not, hey, someone's throwing a punch at you. Oh, you have to react doing number 25 or doing number 24. No. You're learning your distance, your timing, your accuracy, and your distance and your timing and your accuracy all relate to your footwork. If your feet don't step fast enough to the right position and accurately, all of the rest of your technique falls apart.
Right. And you will see these things, these same concepts I'm trying to talk about tonight, said in different ways. Like when I said about Sun Tzu and Master Donaldson, I hope he's on here, because to say I mentioned those two, and I'm not going to let him hear the end of that. Those two in the same sentence. But, well, you get the idea.
Nope, absolutely.
No sense going on about it.
So we got a couple other people that are commenting here. Mark Caesar is asking, he's like, how has your Okinawan martial arts training helped your Tung Sudo and vice versa?
Some of the bridges were like, we mentioned Master Hart earlier in my Okinawan circles, and some of the bridges I had to make between that and Tung Sudo were that, like one in particular is coming to mind, that this is usually about an eat-on thing. No matter what art it is, you are trying to get quicker, but you don't realize you're shortening up. Like if I said, no, step faster, Dan, step faster, you probably would inevitably take a shorter step trying to be quicker. And it was Master Hart that pointed that out, that just because we're, I used to be short moves, like, yeah, I'm Indian close guy, I'm the Okinawan guy, and that wasn't right. And he told me it wasn't right. The movements themselves still got to get to where they have to go. You don't shortcut them to be quick. And then, so you try to lengthen out, and then you realize you don't feel as fast as you did. So you try to catch the fast up to the lengthening, or it's the same with moving your feet. Like you said, they're lagging way behind your hands because your hands are just naturally quicker. You try to catch them up. Now they get faster. So you start he used to do it. He used to race his hands and feet. He showed us an exercise for that. And so that's a continual, never stop. So when I lengthen, which way? Now I'm not as quick. So I got to get the quick to catch up. Oh, now I'm doing this wrong. I got to get the length. And that all came over. I realized I could use that in Tung Sudo, Kempo, whatever it is. And it definitely helped in that way.
So now when somebody else asks, what kind of drills or exercises do you like to use to try to teach, your students to put everything together, to work on their speed, to work on their, to incorporate those ideas? What do you do? What do you kind of use to teach your students to pass those on to other people?
What am I use, or what am I successful at? Because sometimes I try, but okay. So we could go into that 100 ways, but the one thing I'm going to say is I mentally try to make them want it. They will not get quicker or any of those things until they want to. And I try to find a reason to make them want to do that. Now, it's hard to negotiate with young kids, those kind of things. But however you do it, for whatever age, if they don't want it, I told you the reasons I joined, but they aren't there. Why are you here? I don't know. Mom told me to come down here. If you can figure out something to make them want it, I don't know what drills that would entail. It's different for everybody. I remember somebody showing us about a longer side kick, how they kept moving the pad a little more. Now it's a game to those kids, and they wanted to lengthen that out. They wanted to get off the ground then. And so until you figure out what makes them want it, you really, whipping a dead horse, as they say, pardon that pun, but it really going nowhere. So you got to start there, I think. And then you'll come up with your own drills after that.
All right, cool. Awesome. So we're running at about 55 minutes. We're gonna throw it out. If anybody else has any more one more question, please type it in, and we'll see if we can get one more. I'm gonna ask Master Molinaro one more question, and then if you guys can type something in, if you guys have one more, we'll also see if we can get one more.
By the way, Dan, my students are saying right now, "Wow, you got more than one answer out of him in 55 minutes."
Oh, we pre-talked, so I wore him out a little bit.
Oh my God.
So we had, and I asked Master Artika this because I'm always curious of what people's reactions were to it. So you were there at our first U.S. national championships this past last summer. What were your kind of thoughts or feedback? What did you feel being there and going through that event through the first time of something? Because very few people get to be at the first time of something. Not many people were at the first World Championships. You were at the first national championship.
Oh, I don't have the patch on.
So being at the first of something is always an interesting thing. So what were something? Did you have any thoughts or ideas or memories coming out of that first U.S. national championships last year?
No, it's almost like curiosity. Okay, this is the first one. Let's go see how this is going to go. Let's see if this is going to be anything different. Let's see if there's going to be a different energy there. That was the feeling I think that was going on up in New York with our people anyways. Hey, this is like you said, this is the first one. Let's this you're going to have some different things to watch. Let's go check this out, and I think we all had that attitude more than anything.
That's cool. And I think we did manage to accomplish some different stuff. We had the championship belts, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I personally tried. I was not successful. I'm going to tell everybody this. I did try to get Vince McMahon, because WWE was right down the street, to come and hand out the championship belts. I tried, but I'm like, hey, come on, we can get Vince. He can hold up the championships. It'd be awesome, but it didn't happen. We got a lot accomplished. That was one thing we didn't.
So you could have gone next for Triple H. Then you would have played that song, and I would have just instinctively went running up there right in front of him. And he probably would have beat my rear end. So maybe it's a good thing it didn't work out that way.
Did you actually know that literally their building was half a mile?
No, we went to get some food.
Yeah.
And I go, we come out of the parking lot, that Spanish place. And I go, or Jamaican, whatever it was. What the heck did we go eat? I don't know. Anyways, it was a cool place we ate.
You saw the building with a big W.
And we're like, which way do we go? Left or right? And I go, anybody ever watch Beavis and Butthead? That's what I did. I go, look. She goes, I see it. She thought I was pointing at a car coming. No, look, go that way.
I know.
We were right there.
Yep. Yeah, it was right down the street. It was amazing.
Well, I hope some of this was, maybe a different way to look at things. I don't know. I hope it was helpful.
No, I think this was great. We had a lot of great questions for people. People really seem to enjoy it. Master Molinaro, thank you so much for doing this.
I am honored that you had me do this. I can't believe it.
Yeah, this was great. I had a great time. I love talking to you anyway. And this was a lot of fun, and I think everyone got a lot of interesting got a lot out from it, and a lot from these, and it's really great that we're trying to do these with a lot of the different masters and get some of these stories and stuff out from everybody and get everybody to know each other a little bit more. So that was great, Master Molinaro. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And everybody that tuned in, thank you very much. Remember, some of this is the way I see the world. Doesn't mean it's, if you've got a different way, I'd love to hear that. And we'll all grow together.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And have a great night. Well, Tong Su.
Tong Su, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye now.